Peace. In the name of Allah, I'm Aubrey Muhammad. I pray that everyone is well. Hempstead family and believers, welcome to my Facebook Live titled Education in Hempstead, the Blind Misleading the Blind. Who will lead us out of miseducation? All right, I'll just give everyone a chance to come in for a few minutes. Pray that everyone is well. Your weekend is good. It's a beautiful day in New York. Make sure my audio and everything is coming out good. Okay. Sounds good. And if you have any questions, please let me know. But this is serious. Miseducation. The village school board election is coming up soon. I forgot the exact date. I believe the NAACP is having that school board forum at Kennedy Park. It's on someone's Facebook page. But we should all attend that, and we should all vet these candidates for that. Give it another minute. Great. Excuse me. And it is the 29th day of Ramadan. This is the next to last day. Tomorrow should be the last day. And I believe that some Muslims around the world, we have different day lag and stuff. Some Muslims still go by the honored tradition of sighting the moon. It's a certain moon that comes about, and when they sight it, they say this is the beginning of Ramadan. And it became an obscure tradition in the Muslim world, because Muslims around the world, visually back then, they may not have known deep astronomy, stars and everything. We had all those sciences, but people, it was a visual cue to look up. If you see it, you start. But if it's cloudy, if it's bad, you can't see it, they would hold it off. But as we know, if we look beyond the clouds, that's an astronomical event. That's clockwork. You could predict Ramadan for centuries to come if the Earth is not disturbed in a major way, knocked out of orbit. But if it's still in the same orbit, that new moon will come, it will wax away. The months will be the same. The lunar month will still be the same. The new moon, the first quarter, the last quarter, all those phases remain the same. So it's an astrological event where you don't have to visually see it, but that's the way obscure traditions are. They're cruel as heck. Give another minute, folks, to come in. If you have any questions, please let me know. Go into the comment section. I'll be glad to answer them. It's a beautiful day today on Long Island, you know. And I think that every day is a great day to be above ground. And that we should be grateful for sunshine, rain, all of it serve a purpose. But when it's a nice day, you know, it just gives a good spirit to you, man. Gives you a reflection and sight if you're diligent, paying attention to everything. Because we're grateful for everything. Because all things come to an end. And new things begin. Gratitude carries us through. All right. Once again, let me formally do this again. For everyone else who may be coming in watching, peace in the name of Allah. I'm Aubrey Muhammad. I pray that everyone is well. Welcome to my Facebook Live. It is titled Education in Hempstead, the Blind Misleading the Blind. Who will guide us out of miseducation? As you know, this topic is very on all of our minds right now. We have a school board election coming up in a few weeks, I believe. And flat out, I'm very disappointed in the Hempstead School Board. Two good brothers and sisters I know there. They have a good spirit. My sister Patricia Neal, person know you. For Randy Stiff, I know you. good brother. Randy got a good spirit and a conscience. But that the school board itself, just that you have no desire to reflect the will and the great potential in the community and students. Most of us, we want the certificate on the wall. That's what we strive for. We aim a certificate to serve corporations. That is our desire. That is our aim. And they even say it. Teachers, they say, get that certificate. Get it. Go spend money. Get a student loan. Get in all that debt. They will give you a $100,000 student loan before they will give you a $20,000 small business loan to start a business. What does that say about us? Carter G. Woodson, that was 90 years ago, in 1933, wrote a powerful book, The Miseducation of the Negro. It's a so-called Negro. The only nigger and Negro is what the Caucasians made in this country, manufactured. That's this video in the background we see playing here. This is a YouTube video. It's a small, he's saying the worst lynching is a psychological one in that video. This is a YouTube video. It's a review. It has short quotes of Carter G. Woodson, but the book is deep. And it struck me. I've been reading the book since the late 80s. And it has struck me how relevant our ancestor and scholar Carter G. That's Goodwin, Carter Woodson, how his work is still relevant today. He almost 100 years ago, almost a century ago, black people, he studied us and watched us and observed us and saw that we were proud to be miseducated. Coming up from slavery, we had no education. We were misguided. We were brutalized. Our education was what? Under terrorism, torture, whippings. Man, it was bad. Not only did he misguide us, did he misteach us, he whipped it into us with cadences, songs. He had songs on the plantation, sing along, work songs that went along with our rhythm. And those beatings is something, a legacy that we carry on to this day, those whippings. And also the teaching. He showed how we have no community value, how we were so proud to be learned in Greek, in Latin. And this meant so much to us. Even our so-called secret societies. It didn't go into our ancient Asiatic, black, global origin as the original people of the planet Earth, the authors of civilization, the makers of mankind, the makers of all the people on the planet come out of black people. The most honorable Elijah Muhammad said, original man, Asiatic black man of the planet, cream of the planet Earth, God of the universe, was so black. You take a black shoe and he showed the color of original people that was universal throughout the galaxy and the universe. And how we tied into this universal people. And how we selectively bred people. We grafted all of mankind. It was a black germ and a brown germ. Most honorable Elijah Muhammad said, I could go into this because they don't teach it. You don't teach it in school. You're miseducating us. You're misleading us. This is why we have colorism in school. He observed this 100 years ago, almost a century ago, the colorism we had. Most honorable Elijah Muhammad said, in our nature, the black man will be a shade darker than the woman. That's natural in black people, original black people. You go to Sudan, you go to India. This is where the remnants of our original people are. Are we proud of them? Do we promote them as standards of beauty, originality? That's what beauty is, originality. That's the essence where truth and love is, and originality. That's why it's hated so much in this world. That's why we hate our blackness. We've been miseducated by Caucasians who dominated us and taught us to hate ourselves, hate your originality. It is an awful spell, a wicked teaching and plan that have a life of its own. Do you teach the Willie Lynch letter in schools that shows this colorism, this self-hatred, how they mastered us, and how through psychology and engineering, mental and civil and social engineering, to teach us to be useless to ourselves and useful to you, and how we would use it against each other, and it would be a perpetual training that we would do. It would be a perpetual system that we would continue on ourselves, because we practice it amongst ourselves. And we say it. It is. I grew up like that in the 70s. I remember it clearly. Good and bad. What was good and bad? Good white people? They were good white people. Our elders used to speak up. They used to clean their homes and work for them and stuff like that. Some of them would mistreat you in the South, and then you get north, which the liberals, who are more diabolical, but they would give you a little bit more gold for your labor. So you call them good, because they were so deceptive. And they were our main miseducators. They're the ones that went down south after slavery. The New England English was miseducating us. They taught us to be useful. Some of them are well-intended, but they don't understand our nature. And those that do manipulate it badly to create a perpetual system where we have colorism, classism, something natural in us, that a so-called dark-skinned black man would naturally be attracted to a woman one shade lighter than him. That's the way it goes. Go back to the Nile Valley. Go to the Indus Valley. That's the way it is. And then look how it was used against us. My God, look how we make a fetish out of a mixed race woman, a fetish out of a light-skinned woman, a woman my complexion, hair texture. And we fetish them. And we elevated them as trophy women. And you really had a trophy. You had the prize if you had a Caucasian woman. Why? Because he forbid her. We weren't even attracted to Caucasian women. Black men really aren't attracted to Caucasian women. Caucasian women are attracted to black men. All women are. Original man, who's being himself, not an ignorant man. They're not attracted to ignorant men. That's why you have to throw on all that charm and get in that dog mode so much. A dignified man, knowledge of self, is the star of this universe. That's original black men. And he used it. Go watch Goodbye Uncle Tom. There's that plantation owner, like Don Johnson played in Django Unchained. And his plantation was dedicated to producing comfort women and women for pleasure. Remember, the sister was down in the front of his big house? That's Big Daddy. That's where the term comes from. We use that term, Big Daddy. That's what we call the master. That was a plantation that produced sex. They objectified our women as sex slaves, literally, comfort women. There was a man in Louisiana. He spoke of the art of it. And he was just so good by Uncle Tom. He says, yeah, I'll take a mixed race Creole woman. I take some with some coconut and some walnut color and with a certain hair type, and I mix them and I make them fine. He would even produce a little boy. They were pedophiles to look like little girls. On these plantations, you could go into these parlors and pay. These wasn't on the auction block. They were in parlors, the specific sex slaves that would be up in the house women, so-called mulatto, octoroon. He started giving names. And he was talking about the flavors, how I make flavors and stuff like that. They actually did this with selective breeding. And he used it against us, to where if you were a rebellious man, since we had the Caucasian woman as a prize, she was forbidden. So it was psychological, something we don't even find attractive, don't even like. We went after it because it was forbidden. So we vied with each other over perception. And then something that was naturally in us, natural man, but because of the political circumstance and how we've been socialized and conditioned, we made a prize out of a certain mixture of women. And he could use that as a sleeping pill, as a Jezebel. Use our women against us to come in amongst us, attractive women. And what's an attractive woman? I just gave you the definition. That most of us have done in this country. Some of us don't, for some of us, with the knowledge of self. Some of us with self-dignity. Some of us just got that God connection in us, where we can see through everything. It's like Superman. You can see through the wall. X-ray vision. You can see through the wall. You can see through everything. And we see people through, but we can see through most things. That's a God-conscious person. Some of us were like that, but for the most part, we consume whatever he fed us. We have this openness in this country that is tragedy, where we trust our oppressors to miseducate us. Carter G. Woodson brought that out 90 years ago. Damn, 90 years ago. He said we vie to get into other schools. We vie to get recognition and acknowledgement, and try to attain with this drive in us to obtain whatever Caucasians have, regardless of how moral it was. We just wanted because we believed it was better. We believed their ice was colder and their grass greener. It was psychological. It is still being taught today. This struck me. Go read the book, Carter G. Woodson, Miseducation of the Negro. Go and read Kwanzaa Kungufu, How to Educate Black Boys. Go read Message to the Black Man from the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad. These are books we need to be reading to give us the knowledge of self, so we won't be so conditioned by something that's the same. Not too much has changed. He said we get the caught. He said we feel we go to these schools and they're not for us to service ourselves. They don't give us the tools to create community value, doing something for ourselves, interacting with ourselves. We're too proud. We want to be acknowledged by a father that has abandoned us. And we no longer call the white man daddy and master and boss. We serve him through his institutions. Give me the certificate on the wall. He gives us the certificate. We're so happy. And who gets the certificate? What's the child in the school that thrives under miseducation? Docile black children. Black men who try to show authority, assertiveness, tune into critical thinking, start questioning things. They give our babies Ritalin. They say he can't sit still because he's bored to death consuming this garbage. Bored to death, unmotivated. You just got to get into Christopher Columbus, calling him an invader. In some schools, you're just getting to that. Never will they properly educate you. They will always miseducate you. I remember that. I'm an alumni of that failed system, and I see the success of other systems who approach it differently with culture, with knowledge and love in self. They never teach you to love self in these schools. They mastered us. They mastered our nature to want to achieve, to be approval. The little boy who starts raising prejudice, this don't fit me. I challenged that in college. I was at New York Institute of Technology, a little short Arab professor in world history, and was a CIA, the CIA studies college students, all college students. Most people who make things happen aren't outstanding, excellent test takers, with memory of test takers. They're critical thinkers, people who understand concepts and principles. The CIA looks for that. They don't go for the all, but they can't use them. They don't use all straight A students, the CIA. They use clever people, people who can follow instructions, people who, when circumstances change and they have to make modifications and make their own macro decisions, they do it there. That's who they want. The CIA planted a book in this social science. This is world history class. Short Arab, I think it was Abrams, from Saudi Arabia. He was teaching us. Him and one of his colleagues wrote a book called it was Islamic Jihad Terrorism, something like that. Jihad, it was something like that. And I said, he made this part of the curriculum. It had it, it's off, I believe. It's a purple book. In Manhattan, a course where this was a book. And we watching, it was Islamic fundamentalism. We had to write papers on it. And on my paper, I put, that ain't Islam. I said, and I wrote on my essay, I said, that ain't Islam. I said, that terrorism, I said, Khalid didn't, he said, don't throw away your life. Not Dr. Khalid, Khalid, the warrior, the sword of Islam. When you see that sword that we put over the Masons to not let them reveal the true secret and their limited knowledge, the 33 degrees they're limited to, that's Khalid. That's the sword of Islam. He saw that the young warriors were going into battle and they were going on fast and they were trying to outdo each other with the great Greek army. And these small little band of Muslim soldiers, I forgot who that was. It was, I think it was Zaid. It was a few of them. The young Muslims was bad. Vicious killers. Went against the whole Greek army. They rushed them. And a few of them. Killing off like 10, then they would come back and say, well, I killed 4. How many did you kill? I killed 6. Then they would go back to try to outdo each other on the Greeks that they killed. And the Greek army just confused them because they said, oh, the Muslims are ready to attack. Well, where are they? We don't see them. These little bad, they were coming in, hitting. Then some of them were going fast. He said, you kill 5, well, I'm going on a 2-day fast. And I'll kill 5, so that'll outdo you. And they were doing this, vying with righteousness, to slay the enemies of Islam, coming into the Islamic country. And Khalid saw this. And Khalid said, do not throw away your life. He said, that was reckless. You do not do that. That's throwing away your life. You do not put a bomb on yourself and blow yourself up to kill civilians. You cannot throw away your life. You have to be strategic where Muhammad's where the messenger sends you. Now in this class, he was asking about Islamic fundamentalism. And I said, well, that's not Islam anyway, because foreign cultures have crept up into Islam. You know, wherever it re-emerged in Arabia and it sprouted up all over different parts of the world. So those different parts of the world, in India they became Muslims, in Turkey they became Muslims, in Africa they became Muslims, West Africa, different parts of the world where they were Muslims. And then once that main authority from Arabia fell into weakness, those people's former culture, they would adapt in Islam, and their way of Islam became very different. And I said, well, that has happened in the Muslim world. And Abrams asked me, he said, what type of differences? And I said, and I quoted Minister Farrakhan. I said, the disrespecting women. I said, that have nothing. I said, Muhammad brought justice to women. And he got quiet because he had to recognize the truth. But he put that pamphlet in our hands. It was a burgundy pamphlet. I don't have it, unless that book is in Ghana somewhere in a collection, school collection, with the brother on his farm there. I sent all my books over there, my library. And in that book, they were testing the waters. They were seeing what our minds were. They were recruiting Arab terrorists in this country. This is the CIA and New York Institute of Technology in the 90s. I went through that. Then I later told, they sent you out. They get a sense of who you are. Then they go get you. And if they see that they could use you, that you're a radical, oh, go kill the infidels, and let's go get them. They were looking for people like that. People who had that sentiment, and they would they would misguide them from behind the scenes in a hidden hand and have them do terrorist acts. That's what happened with the first World Trade bombing. And the first one, remember that in 95? I was on the Upper East Side in a Tunisian spot in East Harlem. I heard it on the radio, 10 Wins. When they bombed the first World Trade Center, they tried to knock it over into the second building, but it just blew up with the van. In the basement, remember that? That was an FBI Egyptian agent that coordinated that. And those explosives were the same type as the Oklahoma City bombing. They did that in American schools. They recruit people like that, dum-dums, that can't see through the sophisticatedness of this society. It is ruled by wealthy people who manipulate other people. And I also told him, Abrams, that the original Egyptians were black. He went into a fit. He said, no, they're Arabs. They were teaching that the Nile Valley civilization were white Arabs. And I said they were black. And I said, look at the sculptures. They wouldn't let me bring in outside text into New York Institute of Technology. New York! They wouldn't let me bring it in there either. She said, a professor told me, I said, well, this is an outside source. They would not let me quote outside sources on my papers in New York Institute of Technology. But I quieted him down because I started quoting him scholars that I was going to teach him from, that I was going to reference him from, Chuck Diop and Dr. Ivan Van Sertima, and I was going to go into other of Count Von and those ancient Caucasian Greek, Herodotus, so-called father of history. He said the Egyptians were black. A lot of ancient authors recognize this. The Caucasian scholars hide this, and they don't let you bring it up to them, but I brought it up to him. And he was shocked that he was being challenged. And in English class, I presented How to Eat to Live and how it affected my life and improved my life. And I put the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad book right up on the blackboard. Pop! And I referenced it. And I actually showed my medical records for that year in the 90s. I had outstanding medical records. My health was top-notch. I should go to that, get a yearly physical. I never went to the hospital. Unless it was one time I did have a poison. I went to the allergic reaction. I don't know what it was from. In the 90s. I do remember that. It was an outbreak. And but I went to the World Trade Center, the fifth building, the small building. It had a medical center. I think Trump dedicated money to them. Trump was putting his name everywhere because when you donate money to those research centers and medical centers, they put your name. He had a name on his plaque in that office. I remember that. And I had an outstanding, and I presented this in the class. I said, well, this, proof, the proof is in the pudding. I'm not giving you theory. I'm showing you. That's how I went into private school. Into school, bringing examples, life examples, to use my mind. I would challenge things. You have to. You got to stop being so passive. 90 years ago, Carter G. Woodson spoke of the inferiority complex that these teachers was giving us, misguiding black students who are not useful to themselves. And when I read the book, and then I look at us 90 years later, we still do the same tragic failure mistake of trusting the Caucasians who have mistreated us for centuries to give us an education. The Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad said, how a man treats you is how he will teach you. And you're looking at the result. This is why the schools don't produce community value. And Trump and all this. It's people that was throwing out cliches to me. Oh, it starts in the home. I'm the home. You ain't the. Your home was broken. The schools reflect your current home going into, because you refuse to get cultivation and the knowledge of yourself and industriousness. It starts with us. But it will never change if we don't get cultivated people in here. You're on this school board, and a few people, and a few candidates have asked me for the endorsement. You're doing the same thing. What's your platform? Don't invite me in that you want me to endorse you do the same exact thing. You're not, you're miseducated. You have been miseducated. You're the blind. I'm referring to you as the blind, mentally blind. You can't see the mechanism of your enemy. You don't challenge them, no way. You just challenge to be perfected in whatever they have handed you. You ask for my endorsement. Call me in to rewrite the curriculum, to make it culturally relevant. Call me in to reallocate the funds of the budget towards industrialism, towards teaching our children micro-gardening, to teach them self-business, vending, bookkeeping of that little self-business. Start them with self-businesses right there in the school and teach community. Call me in for that. Call me in to teach them to defend what we build. Call me in for cultivation, refinement, and saving and protecting our community and building up community value to build up generational wealth. None of you have opposed the devitalization that's going on in Hempstead, that's killing generational wealth. Thousands have lost their homes over the last 20 years. Not one of you. Brother Randy, conscious, he's getting into a little of it. Lamont, my sister Patricia McNeil, you've spoken up against a few things, but y'all don't have a platform that addresses it. You have to put this in the curriculum on the school website. We're going to cultivate our students to increase community value, to bring them back as brigades in the community, to develop it and protect it from misdevelopers. They just gave away 32 acres of land, and they tried to take your school land, to put the water tower on there. Randy stood up. Thank you, Randy. I believe Patricia McNeil was with him when you did that. Randy got a conscience. And y'all just interrogate that brother. That brother had the challenges. He was on the forum, and we all got questions and stuff, but you literally interrogated that brother. Okay, he dealt with that. That was dealt with. And now you see him still working in excellence, but that excellence is to be conformative. You see, that excellence that you want 100% graduation rate of miseducated children who are seeking a certificate on the wall. Instead of cultivating community, being industrious in the community, to open up factories here for CNN machining, even 3D printing, you can produce things. To have just this creative, just to go in that direction. That's the direction we need to be in. Self-sufficiency, micro-garden, do things for yourself, vending, developing our unique African culture. We got to call in our scholars. We have to call in our greats. Call in Brother Dr. Umar Johnson to put an Afrocentric curriculum in. I'll work with that brother in education. We would turn that educational system around in 3 to 6 months. Turn it around. Don't you know it's all special, that specialization? It don't just mean black. We teach everybody black. You have indigenous, native indigenous children, Latina children, and Asian children. You give them all specialized specialized teaching, where it would be an option, and that option is what we would select to be the basis of our curriculum. That's what you do. In college, they have it as electives when it's supposed to be the core. Well, you have electives coming up in school that focus right towards the customized specialization of people, circumstance in the community. Hempstead is so overtaxed and over-policed and misrepresented, it resembles a colony. You're teaching them in the schools that they live in a colony-type setting. 90 years ago, Carter G. Woodson brought this out. How you make a brain drain. You get your little talent itself, you get your little development, your little training, and it makes you big and puffed up. Now here you go to another community, trying to get into a hostile community where they mistreat you, treat you like crap. And this is your success, a brain drain. Don't you know that these immigrants who are excelling around you in the hospice, medical field, all these big medical institutions that are growing and gobbling up everything, Northwell, NYU, Stony Brook. There's one more I can't think of over by the Coliseum. That's not Stony Brook. That's is that not St. Ives? I'm thinking of the high school up in Somers, New York, at Lincoln Hall. St. Ives. That was a private Catholic school. It's Mount Sinai. Mount Sinai is over by Nassau Coliseum. They're conglomerate. They're oligarchs. All they're doing is buying up all the other medical things, all the medical little companies. They're gobbling them up into a monopoly. And who do you see in these staff? Who do you see all up in there? It's not our people. It's not black people who built this country. We sprinkled in there. It's immigrants they're leaving their country, they're leaving India, they're leaving, Arabs are leaving there, leaving their Arab nations. China and Asia and all these other Asian countries. These aren't simple people coming here. Most of them immigrants coming here are students who go to school. Some of them stay here. And then these are the most talented of their people. They're coming here. You shouldn't even call them Indian, Chinese, and Arab. You should call them immigrants because they have that ambition. You teaching this in school? Is this up on the chalkboard? That it's not a nation of immigrants? That is white supremacist Europeans who stole the land? Some of us black people were here, native black people. We recognize that. And most of us imported from Africa to build the country into a mountain of gold that everybody wants to come here now. Everybody loves America. Come on to America. You get more gold for your labor. And that gold was built off the blood, sweat, and tears of our exploitation. Are you teaching that? Call me in to do that. I'll do it. Don't call me in and endorse you and you're doing the same old stuff, producing the same failures, the same failed system, where your aim is to get a certificate. What you do with a certificate, you love it. You get the little star on your head as a child, the teacher's pet. That's the most docile student. Look at the black boy that asserts himself. They give him Ritalin. He failed school. They kick him out of school. They expel him. Or they give him special training. If your parent is cultivated enough to do it, the parents trust this system. This is your tragedy. Black people in America, you trust a system that's designed like this. That's designed to keep us a permanent underclass. I'll come in and teach us to take 2 pennies, to turn it into a dime, to turn it into $1. And our industriousness and our creativeness and our critical thinking. And pooling our resources to do something for ourselves. You want that certificate. So when you go to a corporation, they give your silly behind 2 pennies, and you take a dime and you turn it into $1 for them, and they keep the $1. And you're proud of this. Go watch social media. I got the job. I seen people crying in tears. I mean, I can't even duplicate it now. When I was in another mood, I could do it. I can't even replicate it. Crying crocodile tears. Nobody died, nobody passed, nobody hurt. You got the job. Some greedy oligarch, corporation, giving you 2 cents, and you take a dime, and they exploit you to turn it into $1, and you're so happy. Look at that brother, the sportscaster I put on my Facebook page. He said the first thing, this is a super Negro, man. This Negro just was a super slave and a mentally dead Negro with a big mouth. And he just, that brother, Stephen, what's his name? Stephen, something, brother, was just, said the first thing I do, goddamn, the first thing you should do is pray, brother, to the creator of the heavens and earth. slave. Jeffrey Daniels, this is what a mental, moral, shackle my slave is. Jeffrey Daniels. You got upset that I gave you this analogy of yourself. Stephen, you know the sportscaster. He said, the first thing I do in the morning, I wake up to see how I can make my boss millions. And then the second thing I do, it ain't to go help your community, it ain't to go build up your generational wealth, is to see how can I get a piece. You have failed our children. And all y'all do, all I hear from y'all, every failed school administrator and failed teacher with that weak teaching in school, all of you shield yourself with the children. The children, the children, the children. All of you. I've never heard a competent educator and an accelerated learning teacher, a coach, a successful coach, even mention children. They barely use, they talk about their principles or what gets them through for our community, for a greater good, to create community value. You take personal successes. This is your focus, personal success, personal accomplishments and achievements. You're so proud of it because they give you a certificate on the wall. Then they give you a ceremony. They have the they have the little fruit bowl for you, whatever. You all gather, spending money in these what you call those? Well, it'll come to me. Like these ballrooms. Like a ballroom, you love renting out ballrooms in other communities to give these lavish ceremonies instead of substance tangibles, creating community value and generational wealth. The outsiders, they plan for theirs. Look at the school board, how you brought on, that was Melissa Figueroa, who supports the gentrification of Hempstead, the devitalization of Hempstead and the gentrification project. She supports it. This is why her and Frederick Brewington and that other crew, that whole crew, and now she is aligned with Herb Flores, who by your association with them, you support it too, unless you distance yourself from it. You have to make a statement that's contrary to your relationship with Melissa Figueroa, because she brought in Simonewanaker. And what was he doing? He was a master teacher. He teaches Jewish children excellence. Don't you know a Jew in a synagogue, a brother who's doing construction in the synagogue told me this. And I've been in synagogue teaching and watched him teach myself. But he told me this part. He said, this Jew, a rabbi, teaching the children, Jewish children, when you start your business, he said, you just can't focus on your books, the accounting, your books and your supplies and your marketing plan. He said, you got to focus. You said you got to calculate. And you got to calculate in the future of your driver. This is somebody you paying a little money and do a lot of work for you. You got to calculate that he's going to steal from you. He said you have to factor that in into your books, your projection. You do a projection, raising funds, using your assets to get other loans and stuff like that. You know the routine if you're in the business. He said you have to factor that in. They teach that in our schools. You are naive. You come in like children, man. They're receptive children. Give it to me. Whatever you got, I'll take it. I'll take it. And he taught him, you have to watch him, and then you have to create countermeasures. Don't you know? And they teach salt and load to test your driver. If you're sending out 4 rolls of paper towels to delivery somewhere, you got a supply company, 4 rolls, and the place, your vendor that you're delivering to only gets 3 packages. Okay, one is missing. Where is it? Is it in a warehouse? Is it in a truck? Well, to find out, to narrow it down, well, today they got cameras everywhere, but back then they didn't have all them cameras. They would call salt in the load. They would set you up. They would just set you up. They would put 6 bundles of toilet tissue in there. When the people only supposed to get 5. And when 5 were delivered, they would know it's their driver. That's how they taught in their business school. Security consultant, how to maintain a business. This is why your business failed. You hire your own family members. That's a foolish mistake. Never do that. No wise businessman hires their family members unless they're trained and cultivated. Yeah, that's a real rare blessing to have a family member that will be by the time they get familiarity, breeds contempt. They're the ones going to steal from you. Most thefts are inside jobs. Did you know that? Most thefts are inside jobs. I never learned that in business marketing, in business school. You don't teach it. Simonewanaker. They were bringing him in as a master teacher, and he had other people in that company of his who was going to train teachers. Why did he never implement this masterful teaching? Because it was your babies that they're making mentally dumb, deaf, and blind. He was a sleeper cell. He was on reserve for the gentry. Melissa Figueroa supports Don Montes and Scott Rayner, and financed by Russian oligarch. The MDA, Master Development Agreement, misdevelopment, gentrification of Hempstead. She supports it, and they had Shimon on standby. This is why all he did was like an audit and caught some woman stealing a computer. She wrote off the check and took the computer, and it was missing. She had it. They caught her. He called that a big deal. That was his grand achievement. I met him in the IDA board meeting for Dell Bus Company that was working with these developers. And he said the same thing all of y'all say. I love the children. And I'm sitting there, well, you hate their parents. Look, you miseducating our babies. He was reserved for the gentry. They were planning on moving us out a decade ago, but we had a lawsuit. The Committee to Save Hempstead put out a lawsuit and stopped that development for 10 years. And Don Ryan blocked a lot of those apartment apartments for pilots and tax breaks that they used to devitalize us and to take our homes, oversessing the value of our homes by raising the property taxes. That's how thousands have lost their homes the last 20 years in Hempstead. It is so that these developers could take it over, take it easy. Are you teaching this in class? Civics in class? I teach the civics. Shimon was on reserve. He said, I love the children. They all say that. Every crook and corrupt school board member I know, they shield themselves behind the children. That's what a coward does. Go watch Gladiator. Remember the Roman emperor? When he came down to meet Max the Gladiator, the Spaniard, it was Maximus, the general in the mass. So he came down to meet this Spaniard. Oh, the Spaniard, I'm glad to meet you. And he shielded himself with Lucius, the little boy, that he was going to kill his sister's son, because he was next in line for the throne. And he definitely was going to kill him. But he was shielding himself behind a child, facing a gladiator. That's what cowards do. All of them do that. That master teaching that Shimon was reserved for was for the gentry, for the new 3,500 apartments they plan on building, and them 16 luxury apartments that are later going to expand all over the place. It used to be 279 acres, it's 300 acres now. And it will not be for you. It will be for who they plan Shimon to teach. He even called it master teaching, because y'all are slaves. Y'all are mentally, your minds are shackled. Because you wasn't pointed that out 90 years ago. That you're letting your oppressor teach you. How a man treats you is how he would teach you. That's common sense. But you're so happy because of association, because of your hopelessness, because you don't have a nation that you could call your own. So you latch on to a father that have abandoned you through his institutions, like the monster character in Frankenstein. The monster in Frankenstein is not the name Frankenstein. That's not who Frankenstein refers to. Mary Shelley, outstanding writer. That Frankenstein is an institution. Is not Dr. Henry Frankenstein, who took a dead body, make a life, and wound up using a criminal mind that Fritz boggled in the school laboratory as he stole it. It wasn't his father, Baron Frankenstein. Frankenstein refers to the house of Frankenstein. It's just that those who control the education, those who control interest rates, those who control banking, that's the house of Rothschild. And those other 250 families out of Europe that control this world behind the scenes. And what did they do? They got Woodrow Wilson to do the same thing that Simonewanaker was missioned to do. Give an education to one to be supreme, and the masters and the managers and the owners, and give another form of education that is miseducation to under-aim black people down, to keep us down, to keep us useful enough to give us, to miseducate us just enough to be a useful tool that you could give 2 penny twos. You turn it into a dime and roll it over to $1 and give it to our masters. Woodrow Wilson said there should be 2. He's no good, Woodrow Wilson. Hated us outright. You teach that in school? You see, it's some forbidden teaching. You forbid the truth into. That CRT, that critical race theory, is crap. It's watered down weakness, man. Teach that Woodrow Wilson screamed birth of a nation in the White House. And he fired all the federal black employees. Fired them outright. And they loved to lynch us. They stirred up. That's when they started burning down the all black towns more feverishly. It was a state pogrom. Woodrow Wilson accomplished that so much with the founding of the ADL, the IRS, the FBI. He did it so well. They rewarded him for putting his face on a $100,000 bill. And you want your face on that certificate. That is your aim. You want that. That is your aim. You would be the happiest Negro. The Hempstead village emblem, sadly, is a racist depiction that Waylon Hobbs proudly stood behind. Big blown up ass thing. And the Hofstra, when we went to Hofstra, the Hempstead seal is an image of the racist slave master, a wicked Caucasian. Ain't no good in him towards black and native people. Outright racist white supremacist, a zealot. He's a founding father, and he was a zealot, and I respect his zealotry. But you have him on the Hempstead seal entering Hempstead in 1790. And this is on the Hempstead seal. They hated us. Woodrow Wilson hated us. And these other liberals, they have a sick disease hatred where they hide it and act like they're our friends. And they shield themselves with platitudes of the children, the children, the children. Simonewanaker was on a mission. He came into that Dell bus company pilot at the IDA because that was stolen parking lots that Dell got. And I forgot I think it was which lot it was. But that property, they didn't buy it from the village. They bought it from the developers because the village have given away all of that property. I'm not sure the details. I got to get the details of that again because that's not fresh in my mind. But all those village properties, when these developers buy it, they don't buy it from the village. If you have to lease it, you want to put your cars on there, your used cars, you have to rent it and get permission from the developers, not the village board. That's a weak, compromised board anyway. You teaching that in school? Civics? what these tax breaks are, the consequences, investing in the community, saving, forming your own credit union, doing things for yourself. Call me in for that, candidates that ask for my endorsement. I got a robust curriculum for all children. All will benefit because it all correlates with our nature, with different natures of different people. You will never succeed trying to please your enemy and oppressor. You can't even see him as an enemy because you can't see behind the certificate. 90 years ago, Carter G. Woodson saw it. He called it out. Nothing has changed. He gave examples of what's going on. He said to let you see that lynching there? He said to let your enemy and oppressor educate you. He said that's the worst lynching you could do. You thinking you educated and you going out. And you leave your community. Taking all your valuable resources. That's why people come and they push us over and they take us over. They do as they please. That's a good YouTube video. That's it's an overview. And this brother, he did the animation and he's going over a review of the quotes of Carter G. Woodson. He have plenty. He have a whole bunch. Matter of fact, what we need to institute in the community, it's critical, not critical race theory. I'm talking about this miseducation and what it does for us is in a critical stage because it's failing us. This need to be brought forth in a form. This need to be done with in the community, in the curriculum. To have community input instead of just some board meeting where you're going over the budget and people that's coming in here crying about a pain point that just happened as a reactive way. We need a proactive way. And a proactive way is we need to change the core and essence of what's happening. Now, let me see any questions, because we must do that. We have to create a, okay, here's the questions. Brother Steph, am I pronouncing your name right? Stephen R. Pruitt. Hempstead will get their cultural center, no more walk in darkness. That's right, we have to build it. That's just what I'm talking about. A cultural center. And we have to tie it into the school. That Simonewanaker, well, let me get back to him then. That Simonewanaker was reserved. That master teaching, he never implemented. They had a beef. It was a technicality. He didn't take the oath. Randy said they got rid of him then, but they were still paying him. They paid him like $250,000 a year. But had he stayed or had he took his oath, he would have still been there, more than likely. I don't know, but Lamont got back on the board. They removed Lamont for him and Randy dealing with voter, I guess it was exchanging voter information. It was something like that. Why they said the board couldn't do that, I don't know the technicalities. But that's what the supposed charge was against Lamont. Who is miseducated? Ought none of you are cultivated in the knowledge of self to bring about refinement and to bring about community value. None of you. This is why you don't propose it. This is why it's not your platform. You're just going through the motion. You try, your aim, you believe you're doing good. They believe they should be celebrated for taking 37% of our students being miseducated. You want to miseducate them all. 100%. You want to miseducate us all. Why? Because you hate yourself. You don't love yourself. And you are the manifestation that we need to save our community from you. We need to save our children from you. The board, the school teachers. No white teachers, no Caucasian teachers should teach black children in America. Foundational black Americans, native black Americans, native indigenous people Black people who have been in here for thousands of years, black people who were imported here from Africa a couple of hundred years ago, 400, 500 years ago. No Caucasian teachers should have access to our minds. Nothing changes. That's 90 years. And some of us worse. No immigrants should even govern. No immigrant should govern black people who built this country and haven't gotten compensation and don't even have the desire for fight. Some of us do. Some of the not. You see us fighting for reparations. You see a lot of us waking up, but most of we don't. And do you know why? Because we want to please the teacher. We want a certificate. If we challenge that, we won't get the certificate. And the certificate is our ticket. It's your ticket into debt. You think it's a ticket for success, to leave the community, to get closer to good people, good white people, good hair, looks good, and everything black is bad, like it's a curse. Carnegie Wilson said that 90 years ago. He said you teach that black is the curse, an inferior, less than. And now you do it way subtler and it's worse. Because you want to be a part, you want to be on the team, you want to be a part, you want to get recognition for thoroughly miseducating your own children. No immigrants should be these teachers of our children. No, especially Caucasian. That's the essence of inferiority complex. What do you think the Brown versus Board was all about? That was the brother who took the black child and showed that given two dolls, a white doll and a black doll, the baby with the inferiority complex, self-hatred, hatred of black, chose the white doll over the black doll. So Brown made the mistake. We were doing better than we were in them integrated schools. Them all-black schools, the so-called Negro League, football league, and all-black hotels and insurance companies, we were doing way better. They destroyed them with the false notion of integration. You teach that in school, you promote it. You promote integration. You promote it as a hope. Now you just use platitudes and you done transmutated the words into diversity and inclusion. We were empowered in them all-black towns. Do you teach them? I never learned in them all-black towns until I started studying myself. And we were blessed to get the movie Rosewood by John Singleton to show what happened. And if you was Buck and the Preacher was about that. That's Sidney Poitier and I won't say Bill Cosby and Harry Belafonte. Harry Belafonte and Sidney Poitier. Buck and the Preacher was about how they destroyed our all-black town. Because we were a threat. They were envious of us. They still are envious of us. Are you teaching that? That Caucasians are envious of our success. Are you teaching that in school? It was a pogrom. That's a government. The government is controlled by the duopoly, oligarchs. That long money from Europe is in 250 families out of Europe. That's the long money. Are you teaching that in school? Short money are these billionaires, these stars, Elon Musk and Bill Gates and the new one. Name some more. They come and go, up and down. Why do they go up and down? Because they're shooting stars. They are the face of Woodrow Wilson. You submit. You let people. You convince them that they could take. That I can give them 2 cents. They keep turning that nickel, that dime into $1. You keep that up, I reward you with your face. I send you out into space. All of them want it, and you want it more. And this is why the more wealthier black people are, the more powerless they are. Because you ain't in your community. You're in another community. You're a billionaire. It's a few of them black. Ain't nowhere near our communities. They're weaker than the shop owner. And if you got land, well, it's hard to get land. Well, if a homeowner with a home-based business and a family involved, you are more powerful than these black billionaires, these black sports figures. Because you have community value. which is powerful. They're weaker than you. This is why they cry so much when the injustice comes to them. Look at our brother. I hate to say it, but I gotta say it. This is an example. There's a whole bunch of examples, but this is the latest one we remember. Our brother Jim Jones, good brother. We love you, brother. But you take his resources, spending all that money in a place that don't respect you, the Gucci store. We're laborers and consumers. We're trained to be laborers and consumers. Get the certificate on the wall, and they push you around. You cry. So you come on media. It's injustice against me. Our brother Dapper Don got a Gucci boutique in Harlem, a beautiful one. He loved our people. You see how they shut him down back in the 90s, in the 80s and the 90s. And now look at him. Our law has graced him. I used to go by that spot on Harlem. I used to soldier on 140th Street in Edgecombe when I was in Harlem. I was trained in Harlem. Mosque number 7. Them was the good old days. The late 90s, Harlem, 140th Street, 145th. That was our brother Dennis and brother Henry. Had a restaurant, brother Gary, in partnership, and had number 7 steak and take. I used to go up there, soldier the papers on the block, go in there, get some bean soup. I used to sell my bean pies and cookies in the restaurants. And they had the Anchor store around the corner from the mosque. But the big expanded one was at 140-something in St. Nicholas. I forgot the exact street. But Dapper Don's boutique, I believe, is still around that area. And it's a brownstone that Gucci set up because it showed, look, Dapper Don gave you all this style, all this rep. And he did it right. He did it for the culture. Listen to Dapper Don. So I do that for the culture, man. That's us. That's power. Patronize that, brother. But that's my point. Is we going into these off places, spending all our money, and we're powerless. They still mistreat you. All of you, billionaires. You go throw on a hoodie and a hat. They used to do that to Oprah. Oprah Winfrey would go to the average place. They would misuse her. They would abuse her, neglect her, ignore her. I remember that. All of you are conscious of this. All that money, you got $1 billion. And you still a slave. You still powerless. Look at our brother Floyd Money Mayweather, a talented brother, one of the most talented boxers ever. He's not the greatest. Ali got that greatest because of his character. His character carries more weight than talent. Because Ali had a high caliber character, coupled with talent. But Floyd Money Mayweather is pure talent in boxing. And he got all that money and that industrialness, and most of that money is his, and Kevin Hart. Most of that money is Tyler Perry. Most of that money is. Now, Tyler Perry is more towards the community. He stays closer to the community, but Kevin Hart does not, and Floyd Money doesn't. But Floyd Money, he supported our brother Polite, and he was working with brothers who's building in the community. So fist pump to him. And ain't no telling what Kevin Hart does behind the scenes. A lot of these wealthy people, some of them showcase their charity in a sad way. It's weak. He contributed. Dr. Dre gave millions to some college. What's that, USC in California? What about the blacks? We need to build black schools. You could have hooked Dr. Umar up with like 5 schools. More than that. The more money you get, these people don't have the mind for community value because they feel they're coming up in our community under that teaching that you ain't nothing. A nigga ain't nothing, never have nothing, never will be nothing. We were taught that. I remember that. All of these sayings we got of this inferiority complex, and black is nothing and white is good. And then we hide behind, good school, good neighborhood, good job, good this, and everything bad is black. They teach you that in school, that they need to be transformed. And I have people giving me the cliche, it starts in the home. It don't start in your home. I'm the home. We got the cultivation, refinement, and the teachings to implement our platform in education. We looking at the result of what you do, you're broken. You come from that teaching, and you believe it, and you want to feel secure in it. So what's the first thing you do? You want security. You want self-realization. The thing that you strive for, that certificate got to give me something. As hard as I work, is sacrifice. Then you're foolishly bragging about people showing out in front of your friends. Oh, I'm going for my MBA. I'm going for my bragging to your girlfriends who just got out of high school, barely made it out of high school, got some job she don't like. She's getting microaggressed like hell from the Caucasians at the job. That's where they run you through burning hoops. They make you jump through burning hoops to climb up the ladder to a glass ceiling in these corporations. You're in the hood, you're in your house. They told you nothing because you're black. Why? Everything good is white. So you look for a way out. That's the way the gangs succeed. And the brothers in the hood selling drugs and the brothers that was out there living the fast life, they were attractive to us because they were independent and free. We wanted that power. I couldn't sit in a class. I had to leave the class. I had an inferiority complex. As so-called light-skinned as I am, so-called mixed race as I look, as so much so-called how good my hair looks. This is terms that these are psychological things we have done. Mixed race, so-called mixed race, and so-called lighter-skinned people are privileged amongst white people, and we do it to ourselves. You hold them babies more precious. Go look at your family photos. In most instances, the lighter-skinned child will be more groomed and cared for, and the so-called darker one will be neglected, hoping to get in the center of the picture. This still prevails, and it's getting worse. I can't even go into the mechanisms of self-hatred because it won't last. I only got like 20 minutes, I think. I can't even go into it. But the school's fortified. Now you're coming in the home, you're feeling like nothing. So you want and oftentimes it's not your friends and family who champion you, who celebrate you. Ain't no way how you don't get that at home. Look at, people do more for their dogs than their children. If a dog do something right, they give them a treat. And they make, oh, good dog, that was good. Yeah, you did train a dog. You would train a dog before you would train a black child to love themselves, to champion their people, to increase community value, to build families, to defend and protect ourselves. That's manhood training. They're teaching that in school. It's manhood training in the schools. That's on the curriculum. Call me in for that. Don't ask for my endorsement. If you want to do manhood training, you want me to balance your budget, you want me to take them funds and put it towards manhood training, call me. Don't you know manhood training, that goes back millions of years. We've always done it. Guess who robbed us from that? They robbed us of everything. Caucasians in this nation decultivated us. They devitalized us, broke up our families, and we have accepted it as a way of life. It's the way things are. This is why they require social service. A woman with a child, they'll subsidize her if a man is not present. It don't get no worse than that. That's the training of an emasculated man with no father in the house. Manhood training, we have to rip the son away from the mother sometimes. She don't want to give him up. A mother's love for her son, that's a hard attachment. That love right there. Minister Farrakhan, when he was a child, he was playing with the children in the neighborhood, and he said some fast woman, older woman, "Ooh, look at little Lewis. Come on in here, little Lewis," and lured him into her house. His mother heard of that. If you look at his wonderful mother, Samaya Farrakhan, she heard of that. And she went to that house and bust the door open or down and snatched him up out of there. He said she had an injury on her shoulder long after that. And that's a mother's bond to her boy, the child, especially the boy. Boys that they love and adore, which you shouldn't show favoritism towards certain children. All your children should be that way. But the son and the boy to the mother, that's unbreakable. Manhood training, we got to go and we have to take the boy from the mother. She's crying, and the men have to hold her back. And he's kicking and screaming because he's being ripped apart from his mother. And she's crying and yelling and wailing. And then we train him. And then when he comes back, he's strong, he's trained. And she's so proud of him. My son, she hugging a man. That's manhood training. And then he reflects the best of manhood, the best of his potential and his purpose in life. Right now you have no purpose. You are twisted inside out. These curriculums they're putting on us with these backward teachers. No white teacher should teach black children in America. Rare. Well, as we start, we should quarantine from them and do the remote training and learning. And we're going to have to come up with a way to finance families educating their children with our tax dollars. We're going to have to do a tax strike, and we're going to have to take that money and recirculate it towards cultivation where families are more involved in the direct training, and they get financed. You get paid to be a family. You get paid to be a man. You get paid to start a business. You get paid to own a home, to own the land under the house. You could do that in Hempstead. We could do it. If we're man and woman enough to do it, you got to break the chains, the psychological chains. The most honorable Elijah Muhammad said, the worst robbery that could be committed, accomplished, is to rob a man of the knowledge of himself. Because with the knowledge of self, you get everything. The knowledge of self will free you. The knowledge of self will give you vision and the strength and the stamina coupled with your purpose to fulfill it and your drive. We have no drive for community strength. You're an individual. That's your Hempstead School Board. You are the children striving for accomplishment. You looked around at that school board and that village board, and you said, look, there's an opportunity here for self-realization. I get to be somebody. I get to be important. Everybody's asleep. Nobody's paying attention. And I get as long as I just remain docile and conformative to my handlers. And I give all the platitudes to the residents that are standing up for them, the children, the children, the children. They all have done that. There's not one school board member I know having used that shield. Like the coward emperor. All of you have failed us. Because you see that nobody's really holding you accountable. You understand pain. You understand getting the certificates right now, giving away certificates, having ceremonies. All you got to do is give a certificate, and everybody applaud. And that legitimizes all this injustice, all this miseducation, all this mistreatment, the inequality. It clears your conscience because you have a self-accusing spirit. Caucasians don't. They have no empathy for our suffering. You don't let nobody teach you like that. How a man treats you is how he would teach you. What Simonewanaker did, what he was planning to do for the gentry, them new Caucasian professionals and these Russian immigrants, Chinese students, and all of these gentry that had planned on coming on to Hempstead after they displaced us further. His master teaching is what we need to implement. What did he do? Why did Simonewanaker come up with this master teacher with all the teachers and taught not one teacher? This master teacher. He had like 4 of them, 4 employees in that company. We're going to do the math. He had months, and he did nothing because he absolutely wasn't going to do anything. They were all planning for the gentry. And that's when you and me will not be here. They're going to knock down all those buildings in the downtown, that 300-acre footprint. That's where they start. They're going to knock down you're all going to lose your businesses. You're all going to lose your homes in those areas. You will not be welcome into them new retail spaces. Dan Oppenheimer is a hypocrite and a liar, promising they're welcome. Come on, man. What type of hypocrisy is that? Put it in concrete. Put it on paper. Put it in a contract that these business owners will be welcome into these new retail spaces, which you won't do. And the new homeowners, the displaced homeowners and tenants will have priority residents in these new apartments. You know they're not welcome. We don't even have this is why we're not in Metro 303 storefront. This is why we aren't at a Hofstra gets a pilot. There's restaurants in there. We aren't none of us employed there. They hardly have any Hempstead resident village employees there. But you all go there for these ceremonies, for these pomp. They give your goddamn ass a certificate, and you feel so good in the clap. Look at the achievement, recognizing him. The docile students, the passive ones. They got restaurants and businesses in there. Are we in there? That is a microcosm of what's going to happen to you. Are you in Metro 303? There's retail space there. That's multi-use, just like they claim it would be. Have you been promised for a stellar retail space? Have you had promises for Carmen Place? For any of those 16 luxury? What have you been promised? It's better for you. Whatever God promised you is change. The devil promises only to deceive you. Allah never failed in his promise. It is not for us. The education is not for us. While we need a master plan for our own re-education. We need to illumine the minds of our children, get them into critical thinking, get them in culture, get their history, true history. Dr. Leonard Jeffries just got the Metropolitan Museum of Art a couple of months ago to admit and to promote that the ancient Nile Valley civilization of Egypt, Kemet, was black civilization. Goddamn, he was doing that at City College, getting black studies in there, back in the 80s. I went and saw brother Dr. Leonard Jeffries a few times, when he was with John Henry Clark. I forgot the church we was at. And John Henry Clark looked up at me, and the brother that I was with said, "Be careful of the organizations that you join." We're speaking of black organizations that are compromised and manipulated by government agencies. I saw Dr. Jeffries there, and at when he was with Dr. D's at Rochdale Village Community Center, and a few other places, all over. And afterwards, I had many encounters and stuff. And it's a beautiful brother. He is a griot. He is a keeper of the flame of our culture. We need to bring in Dr. Jeffries, Kwanzaa Njufu, Brother Dr. Umar Johnson, Dr. Boyce Watkins, the Black Business School, Dr. Claude Anderson. Any minister in the Nation of Islam could teach, could change the school around. Our brother Shango, decades ago, went to help Roosevelt School. I never forget it. He went to go, I think he was the assistant principal at Roosevelt High School, I believe it was. Somebody correct me if I ain't got that right. Brother Elijah would know that. Brother Shango was the principal of Muhammad University of Islam. And he came out to Roosevelt to help our people in the community. That boy, an outstanding brother. I think he was the assistant principal or principal to Roosevelt School. And he went to bring the exact teaching I'm telling you about. Community value, knowledge of self-culture, and to enhance our children's lives, to bring out the best of them. Manhood training. They dogged him. They dissed him. They got him out of there. And I remember asking him, I said, well, how's it going over there? Brother looked at me, man. He was mad because they dissed him. Immediately after that, I believe he went up to Yonkers. And the Yonkers school. And immediately, it wasn't even weeks, I believe, they were giving him citations for outstanding work, which he continues today. That brother would change the Hempstead public school system without just school board. We would have to supersede the school, school board. Damn. We would change that school around in 2 months. Sean gonna do it in 2 months. And one change that Waylon Hobbs claims he represents. You represent the same old Waylon Hobbs. We represent change. Because we the bold. And we are conscience. And we are black power. And we represent the best of our people. Why? Because we love our people. And you don't because you hate yourself. You hate your black self. Because you lack the knowledge of self. And your highest learning is you admire the Greek, the Latin, and the others except yourself. You don't know who you are. And your actions rob future generations of knowing. They did that to him in Roosevelt. And later on, Roosevelt did so bad, and Allah moved right, like I keep telling you, they make a plan, and Allah put his plan right on top of theirs. The state took over Roosevelt. Because you are a product of your environment, and you are the child of the state. You lack the knowledge of self. You are a slave, a mentally dumb, deaf, and blind slave, robbed of the knowledge of self. You have mental shackles. G. Woodson pointed that out. This is why you don't want change. You're threatened by change. You're corrupt. That village board is not a payment. It's not a salary. The Hempstead Village Board, you're not salaried. Why do y'all vie so much for that position? That is so important. In your corruption, in your misguidance. Because you use it as an employment agency for broken people who know nothing about properly educating our babies. You position them for friends. You use your influence on that board to position your friends for jobs. And once they give you the job, under the table, they give you a kickback. They give you money. More gold for your labor. You're crooks. You're corrupt. None of you know good for the liberation of our people, the elevation of our people. You're a consequence. You're selfish. And you use platitudes and you shield yourself with good things. Nothing good come out of miseducating us. For us, for enemy and oppressor, he got another $1. From a 2-cent slave that took a dime and turned it into a dollar form. Brother Elijah Shabazz, he would come over, turn our school system around in no time. We would teach our children how to take 2 pennies into a dime and a dollar for ourselves. And we build more than a dollar store. make boutiques, start beautifying our areas. Make a paradise, make a garden. Every other house should have like a micro garden. Even indoor garden is protective and supplementary. There's so much we could do if you have the right mind and your heart is connected to your mind and it's right and it's well intended. Your motives are just corrupt and selfish. This is why they tried to get Simonewanaker in there. That was Melissa Figueroa. I love you, sister. I love your father. But you're supporting corrupt forces. All of you are. Who isn't on that village board and school board? All of you are. You just use platitudes and you shield yourself with children. You're just fighting the other board members. David Gates, may Allah be pleased with him. You're fighting him. He's claiming the children. You were claiming the children. No, we're going to do it for the children. And who still suffers? The children. They come out, they're not producing jobs for themselves. They're not, our labor is not wanted anymore. We aren't in the medical positions. We aren't in banking. We sprinkled in there. We don't dominate. We need to dominate something. And what do you dominate in your community? Self-reliance. We can do it. We need to form a black union to protect workers who work in corporations. All of them. And if you black, we form a black union. And in that union, we step to people and protect and defend them. So you get more of that dollar that you get those of y'all to do it, but we focusing on taking our own 2 pennies, turning it into a dime, flipping it into a dollar. That's real estate. That's land. Brother's doing a beautiful job in Georgia. Our brother Farrakhan Muhammad, brother Ben, here after farms. They're producing cocoa, importing raw cocoa into bars, into retail. And now he's going to do our brother Salim is going to do an art gallery. Brother Salam, sorry, Salam. It's beautiful art. Artwork. I love his artwork. Doing a gallery. It's creative things like that. You have to do then expand. But you can't keep trying to accommodate people who are determined and driven in their DNA to keep us a permanent underclass. They're brilliant enough not to announce it. Some idiot once in a while will come out of the blue and call us nigger and represent his feelings the way he does. Some Karen will come out and show herself. Excuse me. Then we show ourselves. Then we react to it. You don't value land. This is why this Wayne Hall, an immigrant. I believe his parents are immigrated from Jamaica. Why all these immigrants want to be in political positions? They see everybody sleep. Sailor Bayon, immigrant. Kavon Abrams, I believe his forefathers were immigrants. Why are you so ambitious and driven to govern over native blacks? Because we in ignorance, we powerless, and we trust you. And you were blackface, and we think that it's an accomplishment just because you were blackface. Like Obama, was not a native black American. Mother's Caucasian, his father Kenyan. This is why he did nothing specifically for us. He inspired so many black youth. This is why we support. I voted for him. I didn't vote for him the second time. I believe the first. No, I did vote for him the second time. I did, because I think I voted for Jill Stein the third time, because she was the Green Party, because the Green Party endorsed me for Mayor Hempstead 5 years ago. And Obama, I voted for him because he meant so much to our people, because I love our people. And now we see the results that he really was not dedicated to us and doesn't love us. Because most of us do not love ourselves, because you trust the system. You think out of that miseducation, you count on it to get your certificate up on the wall. And you're so proud. You come to tears over the certificates. And you come to greatest tears when you got to pay back that student loan that bankrupt you when you get a medical emergency. It's useless because you weren't taught community value and how to build for yourself and a militancy to protect it. It's a lot we got to do, a lot we got to unravel. As I'm winding this down, I think that's about it. I really wanted to speak about the ulterior motives and that education, how it's not focused for us, and that need to be addressed. We need to deal, that curriculum got to be focused towards us. It got to be community value. I'll answer one more question before I go. One more comment. I see a comment. Yes. Thank you, Jesus. Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad. Exalted Christ. Oh, goodness. Okay. Think like boss. That's right. Think like a boss. CEO. This brother, Stefano Pruitt. He says, think like a boss. Or CEO. They said we only good for going to jail or selling drugs or making baby. Just trifling nigga. We are incapable of running our lives. Open our eyes. You're right, brother. We got to get that training. Got to get the training. And we can do it. We're going to have to boycott the educational system. There's going to have to be boycotts and strikes, and we're going to have optional alternatives to fill that void. They keep doing it because we keep paying. You pay. Don't you know you're paying? This is just going to take a second. You're paying like Hempstead homeowners, and you paying $400 to $1,000 a month of other people's property taxes. Wealthy apartment owners, supermarket owners, and car dealerships, apartment owners, those jobs that you're paying their taxes for, those employees aren't buying homes in Hempstead. Everybody's losing their home. Thousands have lost their homes over the last 20 years. That 100 number I used to say, hundreds have lost their homes, that was in 2008. That was in 1 year, that major loss had happened. Over the last 20 years, it's been thousands. And they owe us $2 billion total. You are paying $400 to $1,000 a month outside of your own property tax. I'm talking about you're paying their property taxes, $400 to $1,000 a month. You're paying wealthy apartment owners. You're paying wealthy supermarket owners. These supermarkets, they employ some of our people. They're not buying houses with that employment, with that salary, and paying property taxes with it. It's a blood-sucking relationship. Those owners lower the price of their goods to run the mom-and-pop business out to kill their competition. Them car dealerships that are getting them polished and tax breaks, you need to train Hempstead residents. You need a mentorship program, a training program in your establishment to train Hempstead employees. You're paying $400 to $1,000 a month of someone else's taxes, and you don't feel it. You don't express it. You just adopt, and they know you adopt. That's why they do it. Because you trust the system behind the certificate. How could it be wrong? Certificate. This is what they told me to do. Just get the certificate. And they were clapping when they did it. Well, and Hob loved doing that. Giving out certificates, ceremonies, more ceremonies, popping champagne. And we celebrated. And we're right there, the passive participant. If that theft and rape, they're economically raping you, $400 to $1,000 a month. If that was your next door neighbor, if that was you, Paul, paying Sandy's taxes, we gave you a tax bill of Sandy's, you would be raising hell. If we gave Ray Shaniqua's tax bill, here Ray, $6,000. Paul, yours is $10,000. You would be fighting them. You would come to blows, baby. You call the police on each other. And why they shouldn't have the police in the schools anyway. The police is up in the school. Why all this militancy with black children? Miseducation. You don't take this personal. I mean, you don't take what collectively is happening to us as a community person. You don't feel it. You don't have empathy for it. You have apathy for things. That's a system, and it's always going to be that way. This is the number one tragedy. Trust in a system that's missed from your oppressor and your enemy, who is brilliantly hiding himself in most instances. Some people, the police, are killing us outright sometimes. But that conflicts with your attainment for that certificate. That's what you want. You proudly have it up there. You look at it every time you come in your office, or your main room, or your den, where you have them hanging. That's a sign of accomplishment. It is a sign of failure. It's a personal achievement, but it's collective failure to a community that loses community value. 90 years ago, Carter G. Woodson described it. Nothing has changed. In most instances, you're going backwards. You got all this money. We got black billionaires. You're powerless. Some cracker police officer can pull you over, disrespect you, dominate you. We need to change. That change starts with us. We have to finance ourselves, educate in a quarantine, a tax revolt. Don't pay school taxes. Don't pay property taxes. Boycott these companies. There's everyone that's supporting that gentrification project. Boycott them. We have to boycott these people. We got to bring life and light. We have to show up and show out for the purpose of creating, of taking those resources. Now, this has to be done in big numbers to be effective. That's why people won't do it. You know, you get 10 people not paying their property taxes. What? Many of us won't fight. My own family is going through trial now. My mother. There's only very few helping. Very few who offer help. But it's a few, and it's beautiful. Y'all that do, you know who you are. I ain't got to name no names. But most of you that do not help my mother, who's being evicted from that Avalon, shame on you. And you're just weak. I've always come to the aid of those in need. I would drop everything I'm doing to go and fight for our people facing discrimination. And defend physically. I've offered my services physically to any time I hear our people being oppressed or facing difficulty, challenges. We got to do better. And those of you who do support, all praise is due to Allah. We have a plan. We have a plan. We're working that plan. But we use a plan to get thousands of us to pool our resources, boycott paying taxes. You got to hit them in the pocket. That's the only thing they respect. They're so disrespectful and arrogant to us. Mentally dumb, deaf, and blind Negro, miseducated, robbed of the knowledge of self, and walking around as a boastful achievement. Selfishness, personal achievement, and a hostile environment where they team up to exploit us. We got to take those resources and finance properly educating each family through remote learning, getting an institution, to go remote learning from the homes, then expand it into an institution. That's the aim. Restoration Resource Center. We can do it. If we apply our will. We have the will, but we submit our will to our enemies. And they are diabolical as hell with them promises. So all they do is promise. Promises, promises, promises. The devil promises only to deceive you, and Allah never fails in his promise. I'll leave you with those words, family, because we must educate our own, because no one else will properly educate us. They will always aim us low. Well, family, that's it for now. I pray that it's close to 10. I pray that you're well, and I pray that Allah has guided you through this holy month of Ramadan. We were blessed and graced to have in New York to have reasonable weather. Sort of long days wasn't it's not as long as it's going to get. We're blessed and graced in big ways, and may he grace us with more abundance and unity, that we may see the light and walk therein. I leave you as I greeted you in the ancient Arabic words of peace. Assalamu alaikum. Peace unto you. Ramadan.